The story follows our protagonist Yang Jun, who transmigrates into the lowest tier of an underground dungeon. Just a moment ago, everything had felt completely normal, yet now his vision had gone completely dark. Thinking back to what had just happened, nothing seemed wrong. He had even paid this month's electricity bill, so there was no reason for the lights to go out. But then, a strange realization struck him. It didn't feel like darkness outside. Instead, it felt as if something was covering his eyes. A faint light suddenly appeared, breaking through the darkness like narrow beams shining from above. As the light grew stronger, his vision slowly returned. The moment he could see again, his eyes widened in shock. What appeared before him was not his normal body. His vision felt strange, his surroundings unfamiliar. He instinctively raised his hands, only to freeze when he saw them. Small, stubby, and completely unlike human hands. He quickly reached up and touched his head, only to feel something large and round. He could only stare at his new body in disbelief. His short, plump figure and strange appearance made it impossible to deny the truth. Somehow he had turned into a mushroom. He couldn't understand what kind of absurd situation he had fallen into. Trying to make sense of everything, he forced himself to think back to what had happened earlier. He realized that he had jerked himself to death and then reincarnated as a mushroom monster. Shouting in frustration, he looked at his ridiculous form, wondering how he was supposed to live like this. How could he even pick up girls looking like this? Desperation filled his voice as he cried out, demanding his original appearance back, his normal, handsome face. Just then, a voice suddenly echoed from behind, calling out to him as Brother Yang Jun. Hearing that name, his body stiffened. His eyes widened in surprise as he slowly turned his head toward the source of the sound. In the next moment, his gaze froze. Standing there was a stunning young woman. Her figure was graceful, her appearance elegant and alluring, surrounded by a soft, dreamy atmosphere filled with floating hearts and flowers. For a second, his mind went blank. Then his expression changed instantly. His eyes lit up as excitement rushed through him. All the frustration from before seemed to vanish in an instant. He stared at her in disbelief, thinking that even in this strange mushroom dungeon, there were actually such beautiful girls. But just as he was lost in that moment, something felt off. The girl he thought was such a beauty was actually just another small mushroom creature watching him quietly in confusion, wondering why Brother Yang Jun was suddenly saying so many weird things today. Yang Jun stood there awkwardly, his expression turning dull as an embarrassing realization crossed his mind. It turned out that everything earlier had simply been caused by his own impulses, leaving him feeling both speechless and defeated. Still confused, he looked toward the other mushroom creature and asked what it meant by his strange behavior. He wondered what he usually said in this world. The other mushroom calmly explained that mushroom men didn't speak much. Most of the time they only shouted simple things, intruders, and then, kill them. Hearing that, his face froze instantly. A drop of sweat slid down his cheek as disbelief filled his eyes. He couldn't process it at all. Before he could react further, a loud shout suddenly rang out from nearby. Intruders! His body stiffened as he turned toward the source of the voice. Not far away, two large figures were approaching. Their heavy footsteps echoed through the dungeon as their intimidating presence became clear. One was an orc archer, while the other was a muscular orc warrior holding a massive weapon. As they moved forward, the orc archer asked if the two of them would be fine without a healer. The orc warrior responded confidently, telling him not to worry. According to him, the monsters in this dungeon were at the lowest level, and dungeon monsters were usually stupid, with predictable movements and fixed attack patterns. To them, this was nothing more than an easy hunt. Just then, a sudden burst of killing intent erupted from the small mushroom creature as it leaped forward without hesitation. Its eyes glowed red, and its entire body spun with force as it charged straight at the orc. With a sharp cry, it attacked. In the next instant, the orc warrior swung his axe and cut through the mushroom monster. He smirked slightly and calmly remarked that everything was just as expected. The other agreed, saying it looked like they could easily clear the dungeon again today. At that moment, more mushroom creatures appeared. One after another they rushed forward, their red eyes glowing with hostility as they shouted the same simple command to kill. The cave quickly filled with their cries as the swarm charged toward the intruders. But the next second, the battlefield turned chaotic. A massive swing cut through the air. Bright red arcs flashed as the orc warrior unleashed a powerful attack. The incoming mushroom creatures were instantly torn apart, their bodies shattered into pieces as the strike passed through them. Yang Jun watched this from a distance, staring at the destruction in silence, unable to process what had just happened. Confusion filled his mind as he questioned why the mushroom men would charge forward so recklessly. He wondered if they didn't understand that they should run away when they couldn't win. The other calmly explained that mushroom men were nothing more than NPCs. Everything they did was predetermined, their actions bound by fixed rules. Unlike players, they had no true freedom. Hearing this, Yang Jun was startled. He looked toward the battlefield and questioned whether those two orcs were actually players. He had always believed players were humans. The other mushroom gave a simple answer. He admitted that he was only an NPC himself, one with a few extra lines of knowledge. Beyond that, he knew nothing more. Before the conversation could continue, a sudden force slammed into the ground nearby. The impact shook the area violently, sending debris flying as the surface cracked under the pressure. Moments later, one of the orcs raised his bow. With a steady motion, he drew the string back, his glowing eyes locking onto his target as he prepared to strike again. Panic spread instantly. Without waiting, Yang Jun turned and bolted forward, urging the other to hurry. His voice was filled with urgency as he demanded to know why he was still standing there. But the smaller mushroom remained calm. In a steady tone, he explained that fleeing was not something their kind could do. It simply wasn't part of the mushroom men's programming. Even so, the situation grew more dangerous by the second. Realizing there was no time left, Yang Jun stretched out his hand desperately, shouting for the other to grab it. At that exact moment, something strange happened. A sudden distortion flickered across the smaller mushroom's body. The air around him glitched unnaturally, as if reality itself were breaking apart. His form trembled under the distortion, and a system-like warning echoed. An anomaly had been detected. A flood of red warning messages filled the air, overlapping one another as the system repeatedly flagged a data anomaly. The distortion around the mushroom intensified, its body flickering as if it were being rewritten in real time. Despite the chaos, Yang Jun refused to hesitate. With determination, he grabbed onto him and shouted that he didn't care about programming or any anomaly. All that mattered was getting out alive. Without looking back, he pulled his companion and started running. From a distance, the two orcs watched in confusion. One of them frowned, unable to understand what he was seeing. He questioned since when mushroom men had ever run away and wondered if something was wrong. The other quickly concluded that it must be a bug. He calmly stated that once they got out, he would file a report and submit it to the system administrators. However, they had no intention of letting the two escape. One of them growled that bug or not, they couldn't allow those two slipping shrooms to get away. The other smirked and replied that he would log out later to report the bug, but first, they needed to finish this. He warned his partner not to die before that. The orc archer scoffed, baring his teeth as she shot back that there was no way she would die in a place like this. Meanwhile, Yang Jun and the small mushroom rushed deeper inside to find a way to survive. He looked around and asked the small mushroom if there were any usable weapons in the area. The other quickly replied that there weren't. Mushroom men were programmed to remain unarmed. Just then, something caught Yang Jun's attention. A large chest sat nearby, half buried among the rubble. He reacted in surprise, thinking that if there were treasure chests in this place, they might be able to find a weapon if they were lucky. However, the other immediately shut that idea down. He explained that those chests were designed exclusively for players, and mushroom men weren't allowed to open them. Before he could finish his sentence, the glitching presence surged again. Yang Jun's body flickered violently, surrounded by layers of flashing red warnings, data anomaly repeating over and over as the system struggled to process him. Then, in the next instant, something impossible happened. The chest burst open. Seeing this, the small mushroom stood frozen, staring at the open chest in disbelief. In his mind, he realized that the old brother Yang Jun could never have done something like this. The thought lingered, making it even harder to understand how he had suddenly changed so much. Meanwhile, Yang Jun looked into the chest and exclaimed in surprise that it was filled with valuable items. There was clearly a lot of good stuff inside. At that moment, a sudden force surged through the air. Without warning, the orc archer shot an arrow toward Yang Jun at high speed. Seeing the arrow coming, the small mushroom rushed toward Yang Yang Jun to protect him. Even though she couldn't fully understand it, deep inside she admitted that she didn't know why she had taken such an action. Mushroom men were never programmed to save their teammates. Yet, despite that, her body had already moved. No matter what the system dictated, she had made up her mind. She would not allow anyone to hurt brother Yang Jun. The attack came down violently, slamming into the small mushroom and throwing it back, crashing near the opened chest. Without giving them a moment to breathe, the enemy prepared another strike. With cold confidence, he declared that the second shot was coming. In the next instant, a powerful force surged forward again, cutting through the air like a raging current. The energy spiraled wildly, tearing through everything in its path as it rushed toward its target. Yang Jun barely had time to react before the force passed by, brushing past his body with terrifying speed. But before the attack even landed, he quickly moved and deflected the arrow with the short sword he got from the chest. From a distance, the orc archer's expression twisted in disbelief as she stared at the battlefield below. Her glowing red eyes narrowed, unable to accept what she had just witnessed. A mere lowest-level mushroom monster had actually deflected her arrow. Her gaze shifted to the ground where the arrow lay useless, proving it had truly been knocked away. But what shocked her even more was the sight of the opened treasure chest. That chest was meant only for players, yet somehow the mushroom creature had managed to open it. A bead of sweat rolled down her face as the realization sank in. This bug was far bigger than expected. She began to understand that what they had encountered this time was not just a minor glitch. Meanwhile, the orc warrior went to report this bug involving the mushroom monster. He explained everything to the management agent and told him that these were the bugs they had found during this run. He questioned it, wondering how long these dungeons had been running and why such bugs still existed. In response, a mysterious cloaked figure, surrounded by a faint purple aura, explained calmly that it was precisely because the dungeons had been running for so long that such oversights during maintenance were inevitable. According to him, it was only natural for small bugs like this to appear over time. After defeating the human coalition, the Great Lich grew concerned that the heroes, left with nothing to do, would eventually cause trouble. To prevent that, he created a dungeon system, designed purely for the heroes' entertainment. Since then, those heroes began entering the dungeons as players. Inside, they spent their time grinding monsters, collecting resources, and leveling up, simply to pass their boredom. Whenever players discovered a bug within the system, they would report it to the necromancers, who acted as administrators, and wait for them to fix it. However, this time was different. The orc archer decided she would not wait. With a determined expression, she declared that she would fix the problem herself. In the next instant, she drew her bow and unleashed another powerful shot. The arrow tore through the air at high speed, heading straight toward the mushroom creature. Yang Jun reacted quickly. Its small body twisted and he deflected the arrow with his short sword. Watching this, he realized something. The body he possessed, despite being low level, had surprisingly decent base stats. Its movements were fast and flexible, far better than expected for such a creature. Just as he was admiring his body, arrows suddenly rained down relentlessly, slicing through the air in rapid succession and striking the ground with sharp impacts. Yang Jun kept moving, dodging and weaving as the barrage continued without pause. Even so, he quickly realized a problem. Despite his agility, closing the distance under such continuous fire was not easy, especially with his short legs limiting his speed. As he retreated slightly, his gaze shifted toward the nearby treasure chest. A thought crossed his mind, wondering if there was anything he could use to block the incoming arrows. At that moment, he got an idea. He quickly cut the treasure chest lid, grabbing a piece of equipment and using it as a shield. With quick movements, he raised the object to block the attacks. Arrows struck against it one after another, producing sharp metallic sounds as each impact was deflected. Meanwhile, the orc archer stared in disbelief as the scene unfolded before her. She couldn't understand what she was seeing. A mere mushroom creature was not only dodging attacks but had even picked up a chest lid and was using it like a shield. The situation felt completely absurd to her. As she continued watching, a strange thought surfaced in her mind. The way the mushroom moved, reacted, and defended itself, it all felt too familiar, almost identical to how a player would act. However, she did not stop attacking. She continued firing at Yang Jun, not letting him close the distance, while Yang Jun used the treasure chest lid to block the arrows. In the next instant he surged forward, closing the distance in a sudden burst of speed. His small body moved with precision as he leaped straight toward the attacker. Before the orc archer could fully react, Yang Jun had already reached her. Launching upward, he aimed directly at her body. In a single decisive strike, the Mushroom Man's attack landed cleanly. Blood burst outward as the enemy's body went limp, collapsing heavily onto the ground. The battlefield fell silent for a moment, leaving only the small mushroom figure standing there with a weapon in hand. Then, a glowing interface suddenly appeared before him. It announced that he had achieved first blood. Along with it came new abilities. He had unlocked the Mushroom Man racial talent, Mycelial Network. Through it he could connect with his minions, transmit information and spores, and even share their skills and experience. Once enough experience was gathered, he could level up. Another ability followed. Plant Mushroom, allowing him to plant himself or allies on corpses or nutrient-rich areas to absorb nutrients, recover health, and even acquire the enemy's class and skills. There was also a form-switching ability, letting him shift between his mushroom form and a reshaped form. Yang Jun paused, slightly stunned. The realization slowly sank in. He wondered if he had really obtained a system. But then, thinking about his current situation, being reincarnated as a mushroom man, it didn't feel that surprising anymore. Without hesitation, he activated his new skill. As his body pressed against the fallen enemy, thin roots extended from him and pierced into the corpse. They spread rapidly, absorbing everything within. A strange tingling sensation coursed through his entire body. Then, the feeling intensified. A wave of pleasure surged through him, overwhelming his senses. His body trembled as energy flowed wildly inside him. It felt incredibly good, almost intoxicating. He couldn't control the sensation anymore. As the energy continued to flood his body, he felt like something was about to happen. Something big. But suddenly he remembered the small mushroom who had blocked the arrow to save his life. Looking at her, Yang Jun spoke with quiet determination, saying that she had blocked an arrow for him, and now it was his turn to save her. Without wasting another second, he activated his skill once again. Thin glowing tendrils extended outward, piercing into the body as the skill took effect. The energy gathered rapidly, concentrating into a single point. It pulsed and twisted, forming a strange luminous core. Then, in an instant, it expanded. A radiant pinkish-red structure began to grow upward, rising from the body like a living pillar. It shimmered with energy, its surface glowing as countless particles floated around it. The energy burst outward, shattering the ground and sending fragments flying in all directions. Within that radiant storm, a silhouette slowly took shape. Standing before the Mushroom Man, a slender figure emerged from the glowing light. The outline of a woman became clearer with each passing second, her body forming completely as the energy faded. Yang Jun stared ahead in shock and excitement, letting out a loud cry as his eyes turned into heart shapes, completely captivated by what stood before him. As the light finally disappeared, a beautiful woman stood there calmly. She had long hair tied up neatly, her expression composed and slightly cold. Her red and black dress shimmered faintly, fitting her perfectly as she stepped forward with elegance. Then a system interface appeared, displaying her newly formed status. She had become a level 2 Mushroom Man archer, ranked as a guard with agility as her primary strength. Her racial talent, Mycelium, allowed her to extend fungal networks to absorb nutrients from enemy corpses and heal herself. During this process, she could also take in the enemy's special skills and racial abilities. Among the absorbed powers was Orc Berserk, a skill that increased her damage significantly for a short duration. She specialized in ranged attacks and possessed a unique ability, Parasitic Spore Bullet, allowing her to fire spores that drained enemies' nutrients while restoring her own health without being easily noticed. The newly formed subordinate knelt respectfully before him, lowering her head as she greeted him as her chief. With a calm and obedient tone, she asked him to give her a name. At that moment, a system notification appeared, informing him that he had successfully cultivated his first Mushroom Man subordinate and prompting him to name her. Yang Jun paused, slightly surprised. He wondered to himself if mushroom men were usually nameless, finding the idea of giving a name somewhat unfamiliar. Tilting his head, he fell into thought, quietly considering what name would suit her. After a brief moment, his eyes widened as an idea struck him. Raising his hand, he decisively declared that she would be called Sai Feng. Hearing this, the woman immediately accepted it without hesitation. She lifted her head and acknowledged the name, stating that from that moment on she would be known as Sai Feng. Without wasting time, Sai Feng looked at him and asked what their next move would be. She questioned which instance realm they were going to clear next. Yang Jun responded calmly, reminding her that they were not players but monsters, mere NPCs in this world. Right now, their main objective was simple: to hunt down and kill the remaining player. Meanwhile, the orc warrior went out to report the bug. He then got the notification that his partner had been killed. He questioned how Labu could have been killed by something as worthless as a mushroom man. He looked around carefully, analyzing the scene. To him, it made no sense. A normal level 1 mushroom man should not have been capable of doing something like this. The thought lingered in his mind, growing heavier with each second. Then suddenly, realization struck him. His eyes widened as he muttered that it could only mean one thing: a rare elite. Turning his gaze toward the distance, he spotted a small figure standing far ahead. A grin slowly spread across his face as excitement replaced his shock. He admitted to himself that this trip had been worth it after all. Rare elites were known to drop valuable loot, and this could be a huge opportunity. His red eyes gleamed with greed as he clenched his hand, imagining the rewards. If luck was on his side and he managed to get a piece of blue-grade equipment, he could make a fortune. Without hesitation, he activated his skill, Orc Charge. In the next instant, his massive body burst forward with explosive speed, tearing through the ground as debris scattered in all directions. The distance between him and the Mushroom Man closed in a flash. However, Yang Jun quickly dodged the attack. The orc's massive body crashed down with overwhelming force, kicking up dust and debris. Blood splattered from his arm. From the side, Yang Jun watched carefully, a bead of sweat forming as he assessed the situation. It became clear that this warrior was far tougher than the archer from before. A single slash had only managed to leave a minor wound. The orc's eyes burned with anger as a dark grin spread across his face. He snarled, unable to believe that a mere mushroom man had managed to hurt him at all. However, before he could attack again, Yang Jun quickly ran as fast as he could and hid on the other side of a massive door. On the other side of the door was an empty cave entrance, and a wooden bridge stood in silence. The orc smashed through the wooden structure with brute force, splintering planks and scattering debris across the ground. Dust rose into the air as the broken bridge creaked under the destruction. He stopped and looked ahead, spotting Yang Jun standing at the edge of the platform. The orc narrowed his eyes, confused. It was just standing there, staring blankly. It wasn't running away anymore. A strange feeling crept into his mind. For a moment, he wondered if this was some kind of trap. But he quickly dismissed the thought, reminding himself that it was nothing more than an NPC. Meanwhile, Yang Jun slowly raised his hand. Without hesitation, he lifted a finger and made a mocking gesture. The moment the orc saw that, his expression twisted with rage. Veins bulged on his forehead as anger exploded inside him. He roared furiously, shouting that the Mushroom Man dared to mock him. The orc's anger exploded completely. Letting out a furious roar, he charged forward, gripping his massive axe as he swore he would chop the Mushroom Man into paste. Without slowing down, he leapt high into the air, raising his weapon above his head. His body twisted mid-air as he prepared to bring down a crushing blow. But in the next instant, something felt wrong. A flicker of confusion crossed his face as he realized the Mushroom Man had already moved. Before he could react, his attack missed completely. The orc crashed down with tremendous force, slamming into the water below. A massive splash erupted, sending waves and broken wood scattering everywhere. The orc surfaced from the water in a furious rage, shouting that the despicable mushroom monster had actually tried to ambush him. From above, Yang Jun observed calmly. He pointed out that in his panic the orc had even dropped his weapon, and now, with his body submerged, his movements were restricted by the water. In the next instant, Yang Jun moved. With a swift motion, he leapt from the broken bridge and launched a sharp, spinning attack downward. The strike cut cleanly through the air and landed on the orc, drawing blood as the blade tore into his shoulder. Even then, the orc refused to back down. Snorting coldly, he declared that even without a weapon and with his movement limited, there was no way such a weak creature could deal any real damage to him. But before he could finish that thought, in the very next moment a sharp attack cut through the water with incredible speed. An arrow pierced straight into his body, blood bursting out as the strike landed cleanly. His eyes widened in shock, his body trembling as the sudden pain hit him. Before he could react, another blow followed immediately, slicing through him again and sending more blood scattering into the water. Clenching his teeth, the orc roared in fury, demanding to know who was sneak attacking him. But there was no time to react. Another strike tore through his back, forcing his body forward as the relentless attacks continued one after another, each hit faster and more precise than the last. It was Saifeng who was sneak attacking the orc warrior. The water slowly calmed as the orc's body sank, leaving behind a dark cloud of blood spreading across the surface. On the broken edge of the dock, Yang Jun stood silently, watching. A system notification appeared, confirming that the orc warrior had been eliminated. Moments later, the orc's lifeless body was dragged onto the shore, lying motionless. Beside it, Yang Jun stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the fallen enemy. Calmly, he declared that it was finally his turn. Red energy began to gather, flowing like threads of light into the corpse. The energy wrapped around the body, pulsing and reshaping it. A system message appeared. Its appearance was being reshaped. With a sudden burst, Yang Jun transformed into his human form. He examined his hands, a smile spreading across his face as he laughed, saying that he had finally been molded back. Not far away, Saifeng noticed the sudden change. Her eyes widened in shock as she called out to her leader, asking what exactly was swinging down there. Yang Jun, still adjusting to his new body, suddenly noticed something falling and panicked for a moment, but it was just an axe handle. Relieved, he quickly picked it up and laughed awkwardly, saying it had scared him for a second. He admitted that he thought he had forgotten to wear clothes and ended up exposing himself. Right after that, a system panel appeared before him. It displayed his current status. He had reached level 2 and was now the Mushroom Man Chief Yang Jun. His rank was Chief, and his class had become a Blue Warrior, with Strength as his primary stat. His racial talent, Mushroom Man Mycelium, allowed him to extend mycelium after being injured to absorb nutrients from enemy corpses or other substances to heal himself. During the healing process, he could also absorb the enemy's special skills and racial talents. Another section showed that he had absorbed the Orc Berserk ability. It had a cooldown of 5 minutes, and once activated, it increased his damage by 30% for 20 seconds, making him especially strong in close combat. A second notification appeared, stating that his plant mushroom skill had upgraded. Now he could separate spores from his body and plant them on enemy corpses or other nutrients to grow soulless mushroom minions. These minions would share their experience with him and could even be transplanted onto other minions. The system also showed that he could currently control 2 minions. A final notification listed additional loot, 2 magic pouches capable of compressing and storing a small number of items such as weapons. After going through everything, Yang Jun looked around and asked how they were supposed to get out of this place. Saifeng calmly explained that they were currently on the bottom floor of the mushroom dungeon. To escape, they would have to fight their way up, 1 floor at a time. Hearing that, he frowned slightly and questioned why level 1 orc players could enter directly. She answered that players had special privileges. They could choose to enter the lowest level dungeons directly, unlike monsters. Yang Jun looked at her with curiosity and asked how she knew all of that. Calmly, Saifeng explained that she had learned it from the players' conversations back when she was still an NPC. Hearing that, he didn't hesitate. With determination in his voice, he said that in that case, they should fight their way out, 1 floor at a time. The two of them began moving forward through the dungeon until they reached a fork in the path. Stopping there, he looked around and asked what lay on each side. Saifeng answered that the left path led to a level 1 slime floor, while the right path led to a graveyard. After hearing that, Yang Jun quickly made a decision. He told her to go to the slime floor and grind experience, while he would head to the graveyard and check it out himself. Saifeng looked at him, confused, and asked what was so good about exploring a graveyard. A faint, confident look appeared in Yang Jun's eyes as he replied that it might be a graveyard now, but in the future it would become their territory. As he moved deeper into the dungeon, Yang Jun picked up some ragged clothes along the way and put them on. Soon he stopped and sniffed the air. The foul smell hit him immediately, thick and overwhelming. He quietly thought that it was just as expected from a graveyard. The stench could be sensed even from far away. Looking up, he noticed a large opening above. It became clear to him that garbage, corpses, and all kinds of waste were being dumped down from that hole. When he stepped further inside, the full scene revealed itself. The ground was littered with scattered bones, broken skeletons, and piles of discarded trash. He observed the area carefully and realized that even though these remains had been there for a long time, there were still some residual nutrients left within them. As he searched through the piles, several items caught his attention. One was a mixture of residual large potion and humus. Another was a dark, sticky blend of residual tar and humus. There was also a torn magic book mixed with soil and decay. Seeing all this, he understood that even this place of death still held value. Yang Jun looked at the scattered remains and calmly concluded that, aside from Sai Feng, he could still plant one more mushroom minion. He stretched out his hand and in the next moment, strands of glowing red energy spread outward, weaving through the bones and corpses on the ground. The energy pulsed and gathered, drawing nutrients from the remains as it condensed into a single point. The ground trembled slightly as something began to take shape. Flesh and energy intertwined, forming a small but powerful figure. Soon a new mushroom creature emerged. Its body burned with intense flames, radiating heat as fire flickered around it. A system panel appeared, revealing its identity. It was a level 2 pyro shroom, with fire as its primary attribute. It possessed a skill called Pyroblast, capable of launching explosive flames at enemies while engulfing them to absorb nutrients. Another skill, Blazing Sprint, allowed it to use fire to boost its movement speed by 50%. Yang Jun observed the newly created minion and studied it carefully. After a brief moment, he remarked that although it looked quite imposing, its size was still a bit too small. As he was looking at his newly created minion, he suddenly sensed something and turned his head, his expression sharpening. In the next instant, blue lightning burst out toward his body, crackling violently. His eyes widened as he reacted instantly, his body moving with explosive speed. He launched forward, his figure streaking through the air like a bolt of lightning. A sharp arc of energy shot downward and slammed into the ground with a loud impact. As the dust settled, something began to emerge from the darkness below. A system panel appeared, revealing the creature's identity. Level 2, Graveyard Dominator, Lightning Snail. The creature slowly revealed itself, its massive shell wrapped in flickering blue lightning. Electric currents crawled across its body as it moved, giving off a dangerous aura. Yang Jun observed it closely and quickly understood the situation. It was a monster that fed on humus, making it a direct competitor to the mushroom men within the same ecological niche. A faint smile appeared on his face as he turned his gaze toward his newly created minion. Calmly, he declared that it was time for the newly planted pyro shroom to prove its worth. The pyro shroom gathered blazing energy above its head, forming a bright, burning sphere of fire. The flames swirled violently, growing hotter and more intense with each passing second. With a sudden release, it launched the attack. Pyroblast. The flaming projectile shot forward at high speed, tearing through the air as it descended toward the lightning snail. Sparks and heat trailed behind it, lighting up the dark pit. The lightning snail reacted instantly, its body crackling with blue electricity as it attempted to counter. Lightning surged outward, colliding directly with the incoming fireball. For a brief moment, fire and lightning clashed mid-air, creating a violent burst of energy. But the next second, the pyroblast broke through. The blazing sphere slammed into the ground with overwhelming force, triggering a massive explosion. Flames erupted outward in all directions, engulfing the surrounding area in a fiery blast. Bones and debris were thrown into the air as the shockwave spread across the pit. From a distance, Yang Jun watched calmly as the explosion consumed everything. The aftermath of the explosion had barely settled when the lightning snail, its body scorched and crackling with blue electricity, retaliated. Sparks of lightning gathered at its feelers before surging forward in a violent discharge, streaking across the ground with blinding speed. Electricity tore through the battlefield, carving lines into the earth as it rushed toward its target. At that moment, the pyro shroom reacted instantly. Activating its skill Blazing Sprint, flames erupted around its small body. Boosted by fire, its movement speed surged dramatically as it dashed across the ground, leaving behind a trail of heat and embers. From a distance, Yang Jun observed calmly. In his mind, he noted that the snail monster moved extremely slowly, making it a clear weakness that could be fully exploited. With its speed advantage, the pyro shroom continued its assault. The blazing fireball descended rapidly from above, glowing with intense heat as it fell toward the battlefield. In the next instant, it struck the ground. A violent explosion erupted, flames bursting outward in all directions. The impact shattered the surface, sending debris flying as a massive wave of fire engulfed the area. The force of the blast shook the surroundings, leaving behind scorched earth and rising smoke. Within the aftermath, the lightning snail lay on the ground, its body charred and smoking. The electricity that once surrounded it flickered weakly before fading away. From above, Yang Jun watched the scene calmly while the pyro shroom stood below, its flames still burning. As the smoke slowly cleared, it became clear that the attack had completely overwhelmed the enemy. Yang Jun frowned slightly and told them to stop wasting time. He ordered them to hurry and check whether the enemy was truly dead. Below, the pyro shroom raised its hand, still surrounded by flickering sparks and fading lightning. Suddenly, the ground trembled. In the next instant, the lightning snail was not dead at all. Its body surged with violent blue electricity as it burst forward with explosive speed, tearing across the battlefield and leaving crackling energy in its wake. The pyro shroom was caught off guard and sent flying by the sudden movement, electricity ripping through the air around it. The lightning snail charged forward, its entire body wrapped in lightning, carving a path across the ground as debris scattered everywhere. Seeing this, Yang Jun leaped down from above without hesitation, his body cutting through the air as he aimed straight toward the creature. But the lightning snail twisted its body mid-air and avoided the attack cleanly. Yang Jun's attack landed firmly on the ground. The lightning snail smirked mockingly and declared that the attack could not hit it. Just then, the lightning snail launched a sneak attack on Yang Jun from behind, cutting through the air at terrifying speed. He remained calm, slightly turning his body as the attack barely missed him. In the next moment, multiple electric strikes crashed down around him, forming a chaotic storm of lightning. Red energy circles flashed beneath his feet as the attacks exploded one after another, tearing apart the ground. Yang Jun moved swiftly within the chaos, dodging every strike with precise movements, his figure weaving through the storm without hesitation. The lightning snail lunged forward again, its body crackling with energy. Yang Jun met it head-on, his strike colliding against the creature's charge. The lightning snail smirked and remarked that it was still as slow as a snail. However, in the next instant, Yang Jun's eyes narrowed slightly. He realized something was wrong. After discarding its heavy shell, the creature's speed had changed completely. The lightning snail streaked across the battlefield like a bolt of lightning, leaving glowing trails behind as it moved along the walls at extreme speed. Yang Jun looked up at the creature and let out a faint smile. He calmly remarked that it made sense. Without its house, the snail's body had become much lighter. In the next instant, the lightning snail shot forward again, its body wrapped in crackling electricity. Blue arcs of lightning spread wildly across the ground as it rushed in, leaving behind a glowing trail. Yang Jun's expression sharpened as he focused on its movement. Suddenly, Yang Jun tilted his body mid-air, and a blazing fireball roared past behind him, launching a sneak attack on the lightning snail.